Hi, my name is Matt Kendall. It's late on Easter Monday evening. This is a client testimonial, just a conversation with somebody who's been through the IEMT course, which we did last year in late 2014. I have Martin Summerhays, who I'm just Skyping with at the moment, and this is really for people who are thinking about coming to do the IEMT course, whether with myself or with another trainer throughout England or the world now, it seems, just to give people a real idea about what it is it's like to actually go through the course and what people think of it, because it is quite a new approach towards therapy. So, hello, Martin. You hear me loud and clear?
No problem at all, Matt. Great to hear from you.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So we've been meaning to do this for a little while. Before we kind of get into this, could you just please tell me and tell people listening what your kind of background is and what it is that kind of drew you towards doing the IEMT course? So a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I've spent the last 25 years in IT. I've worked on a number of major change programs in terms of both from an organization and also from a cultural perspective. I'm busy retraining myself in terms of personal change management. And what drew me to the IEMT course was the idea of rapid change and also the benefit that you didn't have to actually know about some of the issues that people had, that you could actually depersonalize those as part of taking on the IEMT work and the program itself.
Absolutely. This is what really drew me towards IEMT originally as well. Um, what we say when we don't sort of personalize it, we keep it content free. What's really good about change work, and especially rapid change work, is that you work on the structure of the memory, but not the content of what happened and why and who's to blame, all this. It's how's it structured, what's the actual framework of the memory itself. So before you came on the IMT weekend, it was about 6 months ago, wasn't it now? About 6, 7 months ago. It
Yep.
was late 2014, and like I say, it's the 6th of April today, 2015. Had you done any other therapy training or NLP training or?
I had done NLP practitioner and certification program work. I'd also done hypnotherapy activity as well. So I was well versed in terms of that activity. I was also halfway through what I would call what was known as CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy training. So I had that background as well. What I wanted to try and take from IEMT was the non-invasive aspects of it, with working on a framework without actually having to know the person's personal issues. Too often when you're starting to deal with clients, one of the issues that you come across is that they foster their own issues and their own problems on you as the practitioner or as the counsellor. Whereas with IMT, you don't have to know anything at all. And as you very broadly and very eloquently articulated on the course, you can do this very quickly, and it has worked really well for me.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, you've had some good experience with different models, NLP, CBT, hypnosis, and hypnotherapy. So, you had a good understanding of how therapy and change. When we say change work, it's changing how things work. Literally, how people. It's working on behavioural change, working on emotional change, without telling people what to do, without actually telling what the change should be. It's basically if you help people with a certain issue by using IMT or by using a range of interventions, a change will occur. So it was a 2-day course, and you were stuck in a room with me for 2 days, which is brave of you. And so we went through all of the material. So you've had experience, like I say, with NLP, with different kind of frameworks and different models. How did you find IEMT? How did you actually find the process of working with people? Because the thing is obviously it's a very interactive course. I teach something, you do it. I teach something, you do it, and it's a constant sort of feedback. So what was your experience with working using IEMT as opposed to using like an NLP or CBT kind of approach? How did you find using IEMT?
I think that the one key aspect that I really enjoyed in your course, more than anything else I've dealt with over the last 2 years, was the actual practical aspect. You talked, you showed, we did. And it was literally within an hour of being on the course, we were actually doing major change work, obviously coached and guided by yourself. So it was perfectly safe. It was perfectly, in the rounds of, non-invasive to people in terms of their personal circumstances. But it was, what you set for us was an ability to be able to actually clearly understand what IEMT was. And it was fantastic. You could actually see it working. Within the first 2 hours, you could actually see change work occurring with people. That is absolutely phenomenal. That is something you don't see with NLP. It's not something you see with CBT. It's not something you see with a lot of other change work activity, which is really, really different.
Yeah, no, and this is exactly how I experienced it when I started doing IEMT with the court. When I'd heard about IEMT, and obviously it was created by a gentleman called Andrew Austin, and I went on a half-day workshop when I first heard about it. And when I first experienced it for myself, it's like, oh, this is different. This is a different way of working with people. It's very fast, and like I say, it's very. And the thing is, just because something is fast, it doesn't mean that it's short-lived. Because people always say, how long does it last? And so, a lot of the model around IEMT is trying to get people to recreate the problem, to try and bring the problem back. And what it's brilliant with is basically disassociating negative memories and bringing you out of that memory so you can observe it from a logical point of view. So you don't have to understand what the problem is. It allows you to actually just step back and do it. So because on the course there is obviously a lot of sort of interaction, and you can see people actually doing yourself. How about for yourself, without obviously going into any kind of issues, but when you were working on your own memories and your own kind of issues and stuff, how did you actually find it as the role of the client essentially?
For me, it was awe-inspiring. I mean, one of the aspects that we dealt with on, I think it was day one, where we did some form of regression. For me, it was, absolutely eye-opening in terms of being able to go back and actually relive some of those key elements and key issues that you'd faced, but in a non-confrontational, non-threatening manner. And when you did that, and when you then went through the IEMT process, which again is not invasive, doesn't involve touching, doesn't involve any form of hands-on, it literally is guided by yourself and the other, leaders and instructors. What it meant was that you really felt as if there was change happening. And I could feel that change happening myself. Now, taking that forward myself when I'm now dealing with clients means that I'm dealing with it from a degree of assurity, from a degree of confidence,
Yes.
from a degree of certainty,
Yes.
from a degree of, what I would classify as self-reassurance. It's worked for me, it's worked for you, it'll work for them. And I think that's what works in IEMT.
It is, and I think that the thing is with IEMT, we always say this isn't the grand panacea. It doesn't work for everybody all of the time. It works for a lot of people a lot of the time, and it is one tool. Yes, it is an approach, and there are models that we work with, but it is just one technique. It's one approach, and I think it works brilliantly alongside other therapies, such as coaching or hypnosis, whatever it might be. It's a very, very good addition. It is a whole framework in itself, but I think it works brilliantly in combination with other things as well. Now, you've said that you've worked with people now, because it's been a few months now. So you've been actually using you've been using IEMT and the approach with people since the course, yes?
So there's a couple of examples I can give. There was a client that I've got who had a major trauma in terms of a car accident. And for her, the lead up to the car accident was even more fraughtful than the car accident itself. So using IEMT and desensitizing her to the actual lead up to the moment of the car accident really helped her come to recognize some of the issues that had happened, and the fact that it wasn't actually her fault,
Mm.
and it was just an accident that had happened. Okay. Another client that I worked with was dealing with some personal trauma in terms of a relationship that they had and a major incident they had in their relationship. And using IEMT along with some hypnotherapy practice really helped them. So IEMT for me is a tool that I use for major incidents or a single point of conflict in a broader spectrum. So, I wouldn't use IEMT on a long-standing, multi-year psychosis type issue. I use IEMT on a specific issue that they have got at a specific point in their life, and it really works well. And then obviously you then blend it in with the other aspects.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, I've got hundreds of client cases of how people have really, really changed. And I think that when you use IEMT, there is a certain degree of confidence and certainty because it's more than likely going to generate some form of change, some sort of result. And I think that a lot of change work is very dependent on the confidence of the actual person doing it, the actual clinician. So that's why over the weekend I like to give people as much practical use as possible. I actually, my way of teaching is give a worksheet, let's do what's on there. Then I'll actually give you all the manuals afterwards, rather than trying to overload people with information, because it's actually quite a simple technique. It's really just down to practice, knowing where to apply the eye movements and knowing how to do them, as opposed to overloading yourself with all the neuroscience and all the cognitive behavior that's actually going on, because when you're just doing it, you don't need to know. It's great to know it, obviously, but you don't need to know it just to move somebody's eyes, during the weekend. So, no, well, it sounds like, you've had some fantastic results with your own clients. You've obviously experienced it yourself. And let me ask you, so you've experienced it yourself on the weekend? Because on the IEMT weekend, I get two types of people. I get people who are therapists or who want to become therapists, and then I have those people who have no interest in doing therapy with other people. They're literally coming on the weekend to work on themselves because they're interested in the subject. Now, I say it's not a therapy weekend. It's not a self-development weekend in that sense. But the thing is, you will obviously experience quite a lot of personal change because of it, because you're doing the actual examples, the exercises. Sorry. So, from a personal point of view, how have you, since the weekend, how have you been essentially with the things that you actually worked on the weekend?
So for me, I mean, it's enabled me to be more grounded in the present moment. It's enabled me to be more aware of the various aspects in terms of where I currently am. One of the issues that I had from my own past, we were able to not nullify, not remove, but modify the impact. So I think one of the things from IEMT is it doesn't necessarily remove the issue. What it does is it rebalances the impact of the issue back to where it should be, which is normal. There are some people that are absolutely frightened of spiders, for example, or one of my clients who's absolutely frightened of getting in a car after a car accident. Using IEMT, what it does is it rebalances you back to what I classify as normal boundaries. You can get in the car, you can sit in the passenger seat, you can walk into a room and there's a spider there. You don't have to have that immediate, instantaneous rush of fear that you get. And one of the back to my own youth and a bike accident that I had. Now I can get on a bike and I can ride a bike normally. Now, I haven't been able to do that for a number of years, but I can do it now.
Wow.
And it's down to the actual element that I used during that weekend.
Oh,
And
brilliant.
that's personal. You know.
I love hearing stuff like this. It's because I'm as much of a fan of IEMT as I am a trainer. I'm genuinely interested in how it works, and I think this is something that's really important. A lot of hypnotherapy and NLP I like to call sensational therapy. A lot of it's
Mhm.
about taking those feelings and making you feel great, and you're great, and it's annoying. I dislike a lot of confidence building type of therapy because I think it's very short lived. What I really like about IEMT is that it makes things like, yeah, it's fine. You know what I mean? That's it's like it goes from fear and anxiety to like, yeah, fine. And that's what we're looking for to create long-term change. You don't want like, so say you had a bike accident and now then you didn't use you didn't go on a bike for a while and now you're able to do it. When you go on it, it's not meant to be, oh, I'm so confident and I'm doing. It's just like, yeah, I can just do it. It's basically
Exactly.
just, yeah, it's just stopping the anxiety, it's stopping the negative emotions, because then when you do whatever it might be, you're then relaying, or you're not relaying, you're putting down new memory, and
Mhm.
and this is the actual beauty of IMT. I think it's just a great way of working with people. I think it's a great way of um, for people, yeah, to instead of trying to understand the past, it allows you to step back and view it from a logical perspective, so you can understand it better without having to try and understand it, which I know sounds a bit strange, but you know what I mean. So, um, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. We're going to sort of wrap this up. I just want you to just basically any kind of words again, because I really like doing this course. I love teaching this course. It's something which I really enjoy doing. It's not really kind of part of my business model. I do as a, it doesn't really make much sense for me to do this course. I could do a lot of other stuff. I just really enjoy doing it. So just for the people who are listening, people who are either therapists who want to do it or people who are just who want to work on themselves and who are watching this video and thinking, should I come along? Shall I spend a weekend with Matt for for a number 12, 15 hours, whatever it might be? What do you have to say to those people who are kind of still on the fence?
So, if you want to either experience rapid change, if you want to help people achieve rapid change, and if you want to do it in a practical, no nonsense, real world, example based way of doing it with somebody who understands it, knows it, who's lived it, and really is passionate about it, I cannot recommend any higher than doing it with Matt. I really, really can't. Okay?
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's Bank Holiday Monday. Thank you so much for spending some time with this evening. And, well, please keep me updated with your client examples as well, because we're always, well, I'm always very interested in how things are going. And thank you very much for your time.
Take care now, Matt. Bye
Brilliant.
bye.
Cheers.